Hello and welcome to the 119th edition of Fur, Fins, and Feathers. Our friends from Bristol Aggie are back. We have Kourtnie Bouley from the faculty and 3 students. Welcome. Who are you? Tell me who you are.
My name is Brittany Duro. I'm a NRM junior.
And where are you from, Brittany?
I'm from New Bedford.
And?
My name is Thornhill. I'm a senior in NRM, and I'm from Bridgewater.
Thank you. And Miss Bouley, you were an Aggie student.
I was an alumni. I was a student at Bristol Aggie as well, and now back as their instructor.
Very good. Tell us about your program.
So we are part of the Natural Resources Management Program. So we're the other half of the segment here when you were talking with Mr. Bashrash and some of the other students. So I teach the freshman exploratory and the place NRM juniors, whereas Mr. B teaches the sophomores and the seniors in our program.
You have a special program, though, within the program.
Yeah, so for our juniors, they work on their Head Starting program that we work with several cooperative organizations.
And explain that, please.
Yeah, no problem. So that is where we have our Head Start lab where we raise young turtles to get them basically tricked into almost a summertime. We keep them warm and fed in the winter so they don't go into their hibernation or brumation stage. So we take them from being little potato chip snack-sized turtles and hopefully make them to about the size of 3 or 4-year-olds by the time that they are going to be released towards the end of the school year in about 8 months, in about May or June, where these guys will actually get to go out in their natural habitat and get to release them back out into the wild. So a bit different than the confiscated turtles that we talked about earlier. So there are native turtles. Currently in our Head Start lab right now, we have 230 turtles. We have 5 different species. And I think these guys could tell you about specifically some of the organizations that we're working with.
Yes, we work with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Mass Fish and Wildlife, New Jersey Wildlife, Oxbow and Associates, that's a private consulting firm. And we work with a variety of turtles from not just Massachusetts. We've got some over in Georgia and South Carolina, a partner we aren't working with this year, but have worked with in the past. We work with New Jersey, and all for the common goal of preserving various freshwater and brackish water turtles.
And when these turtles mature, where are they released to?
A variety of locations. The New Jersey turtles go back to New Jersey. We've got some that are released on the Cape, some up north, and all of them are kept separate because they'll be taking, their biology, their diseases. So we take great care to make sure that if we're going to release some to different locations, that we don't mix them up. It's a mindset we assume where we have to, if we're going from, say, a red-bellied cooter to a wood turtle, that we have to wash our hands in between so that the red-bellied cooter doesn't bring its diseases to New Jersey, perhaps, where the wood turtles would go, and the wood turtles don't do the same.
I see somebody down there. Well, who is this?
This is a Plymouth red-bellied cooter. That is a specific population, so not a different species or subspecies, of the northern red-bellied cooter. So see, these guys, if you look at a map of where there are northern red-bellied cooters, you'll see, they're concentrated around Maryland, Chesapeake Bay, southern New Jersey, and then way up north, over around Plymouth, is where this population is. So this population is geographically very separated from the rest.
How old is this turtle?
I'm not quite sure. It's near an adult. It's a male.
Yeah. That one we also got from Buttonwood Park Zoo as well, kind of with some of our other collections you guys talked about in your last segment. But he's an adult.
But this population specifically is federally endangered.
Okay.
This is, very important. So that population that was isolated up in around Massachusetts was down to about 200-300 individuals, and the program we're participating in, which is the second oldest Head Start program for turtles, was responsible in part for getting those numbers back up. And
Will he be eventually released?
No, this one will stay with us.
He is one of the education animals, so what is that we do with him? We'll bring him out to fairs and educate people about these turtles.
To bring him to schools and places like that?
Any events where we're bringing our animals, we'll bring animals like these since they're at a lower level of biosecurity.
Yeah.
So unlike the Head Start turtles and the confiscation turtles, we don't have to worry as much as touching one and moving on to the next because they stay in the one unit.
Yeah.
So for example, he would be here today as an educational tool.
Yes.
Yes, that's his job. His job is to educate you and the audience.
Right, where you're saying, Brian, we can't bring our Head Start turtles, not just because they're baby turtles, but because we have to follow the strict biosecurity because those are releasable animals. So we're only taking them in for about those 8 months to essentially give them a head start in life, making them larger so that they're less susceptible to predation by other subsidized predators. So those guys we can't introduce any sort of diseases to. We have to follow those strict cleansing protocols for not only our safety and our health, but also for the health of other animals. Because the last thing we want to do is, by bringing these animals into captivity to raise them or help rear them, we don't want to introduce diseases to them that we are now going to release out into those other rare populations to essentially end up hurting their actual native populations as well.
So if we did release this, if we were planning on releasing this guy, which we wouldn't, the hatchlings are much smaller, but if we were, it wouldn't be safe to bring him here because we'd be putting him out into an environment which he may, in his journey, as an education animal, gain diseases that, the environment may not be exposed to.
Do you have any small in your collection of animals here? Do you have any small ones?
Yeah, the smallest one that we have right now with us is the box turtle.
Right, you're going back away.
Looking.
Here, you want to hold it?
Sure.
Nice.
This is a eastern box turtle. We also have eastern box turtles in the Head Start lab. They're much, much smaller. And they're called box turtles because if you see here, this plastron, that's the bottom part of the shell, has a hinge. So when he's feeling threatened and he pulls his arms and head into the shell, it'll close up. So it's really, really hard for predators, say, to get at him. But these guys are protected as well, eastern box turtles. This one's a male. You can tell by the red eyes and the way the shell is somewhat caved in a bit on the bottom.
Now, going back to the biosecurity, he went from this one to that one, and he didn't have to wash his hands because they stayed in the same biosecurity unit. But if he were to do that in one of the other labs, like the confiscation lab or the Head Start lab, that would be introducing
You would
germs
have to
to
wash
them.
the hands.
Yep.
Or do you have to wear gloves? No.
No.
But you
No.
have to wash.
Yeah, you have to wash in between everything you do. And if anything comes in contact with the ground or another tub, it has to be sanitized before it's used again.
Another difference is the only kind of like jewelry or anything is has to be metal. So, for example, if I was in the Head Start lab, I wouldn't be wearing this leather watch. I'd put it in my pocket instead.
So there's a lot
Yes.
more to knowing about these different species and kinds of turtles.
Yeah, so the way our program works is sophomore year, they'll work with the other instructor, Brian Bastarash, and they work in our museum collection with some of these animals here because they're a lower biosecurity unit. So they're able to kind of learn that mindset, like Brian was talking about, learn the protocols of biosecurity to limit those risks and spreads of diseases and germs. So then junior year, when they come to my class, they're now able to kind of work their way up, probably to our highest biosecurity unit, which is our Head Start lab, because Brian was mentioning that we have turtles from multiple states and we have multiple species that they can't come in contact with one another because naturally they would not. So we have to keep the minimal spread of germs and diseases to basically zero if we're going to release these animals. And then they get to their senior year where they work in the confiscation lab as well, which that also is a major biosecurity unit as well, because we don't know where essentially those animals might have came from, what diseases they were introduced to, and where they may end up, depending upon what the local agencies want to do with them.
Because a disease being introduced into the wrong environment can and has had drastic consequences before. For example, here in the forest of the Appalachian Mountains, there used to be a plant called the American chestnut that a foreign, I think it was a fungus,
Blight, yeah.
a blight that it didn't really have an immunity to, came over from, I think it was either Europe or Asia, and basically swept through, and now the American chestnut is very nearly extinct because of that. So we don't want, to bring something like that to one of our, now that we know how that works, we want to reduce that to our, as much as we can, and that's one of the purposes of biosecurity.
When you graduate from Aggie, what are some of the opportunities that you have to further your education?
So Bristol Aggie does, set you up for making a career out of what you learn in just what you learn in school. However, NRM is different because there's a lot of higher education. I mean, we spend a lot of time not just doing this hands-on stuff, but learning about it. We just told you about all the biosecurity stuff. That's really important to know. So I couldn't effectively take care of the Head Start turtles without all that time in a classroom, and that reflects on the career itself. In order to make a living off of natural resource management, you need a degree. So NRM also does a great deal to make sure we're on the right path to college. They organize several events where we get to meet and hear from and talk to alumni and see how their careers progressed after school. And they all have one thing in common, is that the path is never just straight and narrow. I went here, I did this, and then there's always a couple.
There are many opportunities.
Yes, and that's, Miss Bouley teaches a professionalism class where we go through, our next steps in college, but also interviews, resumes,
different ways to enhance your education at Aggie and to progress on to the next level.
To get them prepared for what's to come next.
And with our program, it helps us be prepared for real-life things. So not only are we learning in classroom about these species and going in-depth in all New England species, we are also learning hands-on some of the things.
Have some of your students gone on to be veterinarians?
Some of them have, or some of them have gone on to even work with this program, I actually being one of those students. So I was a student who was raising turtles when we first were starting off Head Starting program at our school. We started in 2009. So we've been doing it now for many years here. And I was a student doing it at Bristol Aggie in the Natural Resources Management program, went off to go to college at Bridgewater State University, and then was actually working with some of our collaborators. I've worked with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and was doing the other aspect that these students haven't got to see yet. So I was the one tracking down the adult females, protecting nests, to collect eggs, to bring the hatchlings to students here at Bristol Aggie for them to raise up for those 8 months of school, to keep warm and fed. so we can get them bigger. And then we were taking them out into the field with us, out to where we collected them to release them back out to their wild population as bigger adults to hopefully have or bigger hatchlings, excuse me, to have a better chance of survival. And then we were not just letting them go and hoping for the best, but we actually do track some of these animals to see how they're doing or to figure out if this project or if this program is actually working.
Very good. Now I think we're going to switch segments here, and we are going to bring in Jack.
Oh, I'll switch this with Kim.
Here, you want to pass me Nene?
Easy. Sure. Let's get the diamondback terrapin.
He's right at Jack's feet.
Bye.
Welcome, Jack.
Hello.
Jack, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How has Bristol Aggie helped you?
So
Why did you go to Bristol Aggie in the first place?
before I moved to Hanson, I lived in Lakeville, which was much closer to Bristol Aggie.
Yes.
And when I was younger, there was a summer program in which you could go for a week and you could learn about all the different majors that they had there. So I went there and I saw natural resource management, and that's what I wanted to do ever since. I've saw environmental police when I was younger, and I've always wanted to chase that as a career, so I thought that natural resource management would help me with that.
Very good. So tell us who you have here.
So this is our diamondback terrapin. It's a brackish water species that we have here. Brackish water means that they live in a mixture of fresh water and salt water.
Okay, so he would be native to this region.
Yes, sir.
So the Taunton River flows just outside the borders, the boundary of Bristol Aggie. And at that point, the river is brackish water. It's affected by the tides, and it's got that mix of not quite ocean, but not quite fresh water either. And that's the type of turtle that inhabits that environment, the northern diamondback terrapin.
Very good. So he is native to this region.
Yes.
Do you see a lot of them when you go down to the river? Do you see a lot of these turtles?
So these turtles are threatened. So
Are they?
Yes. So we don't see too much of them, but if you do go looking for them, you can find them.
And Mr. B and Miss Bouley do. They'll get in a boat and they'll go find and catch these guys, and they'll take these pet tags. So basically, this little tag here has a code in it. We can use this to read that code and mark specific turtles. So they'll take measurements of the individual turtle, the shell lengths, weight, and then they'll see if it's got a pet tag. And if it doesn't have a pet tag, they'll give it one through a little gun that gives them a shot.
So what you're telling me is the work that you do is very important to the environment.
Yes.
Yes.
However, what we do, be it this, the confiscation lab, or head starting, is just one step in the solution. Turtles are threatened by a variety of problems. Habitat loss, automobile accidents, which are bad because the turtles that are crossing the street the most are females with
A huge problem in Swansea.
females who are going to lay eggs and give back to that population. Habitat destruction, poaching, the illegal pet trade in meat is terrible for turtles. It's a huge industry. So while we may be bolstering their population by taking the hatchlings and then putting them back into the wild and giving them a better chance of survival, it's just a part of the solution. There's needs to be, protections for all the issues I've listed, for climate change, and that's something that, we need everybody to be on board with. We need people to be talking to their state senators saying, I'm interested in turtle conservation.
Yes, of course. I am very interested too, and I'm going to ask you people a question. Tell me about those beautiful big tanks. Do you have anything to do with those tanks? The big tanks that I saw when I went to visit at Aggie?
Yes.
Fabulous tanks.
We designed them. And
You designed them.
as a team, as a group.
And we work with another major, the environmental engineering kids. They're part of the environmental conservation department. So they're under the same umbrella.
So that's really a separate department, though.
It's like a sister department.
a
they
sister
say.
department. Okay.
So they study similar things, but they focus more on the water-based things and soil. They base their stuff off of a lot of similar things of ours, but they also branched off and did a lot of their own things.
So that's why I, as a senior, was doing more work designing, building, and maintaining the tanks than they were, because I actually was here before the environmental engineering program started and saw as it slowly ramped up, as it just had freshmen, then sophomores, then now it has juniors, and next year when I'm not here, it'll have seniors, and it'll be a full major just like NRM is.
My next question is, where are you going next year? Do you know?
I have applied for college. In fact, just got my first acceptance letter today.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm hoping to go to UMass Amherst or something closer like Bridgewater State, or maybe somewhere a little further away like UMaine or UNH.
To major in?
Wildlife biology, hopefully. I love
Fabulous.
working with animals, and being here, I've not only gotten a chance to, be interested in that and then get that hands-on work. 4 years or 3.25 years of experience really is something, I couldn't have even imagined in 8th grade before I heard about this. But now, that's only been reinforced, and I've got so many more tools. I have a clear vision of where I can go next and what may happen, and that has been so unfathomably helpful for me.
The one thing that really has impressed me every time when I come to Aggie is the sense of collaboration with your peers. Everybody really gets together for the common good, and that is very, as an educator myself, that really has inspired me. It's always fun to go. When Mr. B took me down the hallway and showed me it's always an amazing experience. You always have fun when I go to Bristol Aggie.
Yeah, and there's really a sense of community here. You
Yes,
don't see in
there
a lot
is.
of other schools.
You just struck that chord.
Everybody chooses to come because, you have to apply and sign up, and it's often pretty competitive. People, for the most part, choose their major. So you get a lot of people who are here doing something they want to do. And, sometimes even in the worst of days, I'll be covered in turtle poo because these guys poo a lot. And I'll be sitting here and I'll be thinking, I could just have been sitting in school this whole time, or, now I'm learning about something I, am going to be doing in the future, and I'm doing it hands-on and, still having fun.
Yeah, when I first came into school in my sophomore year, I was a transfer from another high school, And when I first came here, it was really interesting to see everybody doing something that they were passionate about. There's many of different majors, and everybody seems to care so much about what they're doing, and they're all excited about what they're doing, and they all know what they want to do. And it's really exciting to see everybody actually care about their education.
Yes, very much so. And they're passionate.
Yeah.
You said describe the word passion. They are very passionate
They
about
love it.
and they love their work.
And I love working with people that have a similar interest to me. When I first came here, it was really nice to see people who cared about the environment and wanted to do this further in life.
And the school gives us opportunities to develop that just beyond what we do in the classroom. For example, in the fall, around October, late October, every year we have a show, which is a bit more.
It was fun.
Yes, it's a bit more than open house because you'll have people out here doing things. At NRM specifically, we really activate the museum, and we'll put up stands which are manned by people who studied, and we'll have pelts, live animals, skulls, and it's a great opportunity to learn those things. Other majors like arboriculture, that's trees, they'll have a tree climb for kids. Floriculture will have flowers,
Various flower displays.
and there'll be competitions too. The small and large animal also have stuff with horses and dogs that they compete in.
I've done a lot of work with Miss Blanchette with her English Cocker Spaniels, and she's been on the show, and that always is an amazing experience.
Yeah. Yes, and it's not just fall show. We've had opportunities to go beyond there.
Talk about the FFA.
Yes, that's just what I was getting to. So every student in Bristol Aggie is automatically registered to FFA. So that gives us the opportunity to not go from, oh, I'm going to join this organization and do this and do this. You know, we can just say to ourselves, oh, look, there's this competition I'd be interested in competing in, and because I've already a part of FFA, I can just go for it. And that's what I did. 2 years ago now, I competed in the state environmental and natural resources competition, where I did animal ID, water science, some soil, not soil stuff for states, soil stuff for nationals. I took a written test, and I placed first in states.
Excellent.
Bristol Aggie won, and we got to go to nationals. So all the way to Indianapolis. And we competed, and we placed silver, which is the middle group. But I
It was
never.
a very good learning experience, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, flying, staying in a hotel, but, learning. They brought us out on one cold morning into a field. They gave us soil. We had to do stuff with a GPS unit, skills which I'm learning and using now for the research project I'm working on.
Well, I am being told that we are drawing to a close. Our 119th episode has been fascinating. You've all been wonderful, and you're all going to promise me I'd like to have you back. And I'm sure Mr. B will drive, but I would love to, and Miss Bouley, this has been a fascinating experience.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you for having us. I really enjoyed being here.
No, the pleasure is mine. You have been amazing. And I think your conversation is really going to inspire maybe some 8th graders to want to come to Bristol Aggie and investigate and perhaps move on, from a regular high school and come and become an Aggie student. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.